One hot summer afternoon in the dog days, just as a terrible black thunder gust was coming up, Tom sat in his courting house in his white linen cap and India silk morning gown. He was on the point of foreclosing a mortgage by which he would complete the ruin of an unlucky land speculator for whom he had professed the greatest friendship. The poor land jobber begged him to grant a few months' indulgence. Tom had grown testy and irritated and refused another day. "My family will be ruined and brought upon the parish," said the land jobber. "Charity begins at home," replied Tom. "I must take care of myself in these hard times." "You have made so much money out of me," said the speculator. Tom lost his patience and his pity. "The devil takes me," said he, "if I had made a farthing." Just then there were three loud knocks at the street door. He stepped out, and who was there? A black man was holding a black horse, which neighed and stamped with impatience. "Tom, you're come for," said the black fellow gruffly. Tom shrunk back, but too late. He had left his little Bible at the bottom of his coat pocket, and his big Bible in the desk buried under the mortgage he was about to foreclose. Never was a sinner taken more unaware. The black man whisked him like a child into the saddle, gave the horse a lash, and away he galloped with Tom on his back. In the midst of the thunderstorm, the clerks stuck their pens behind their ears and stared after him from the windows. Away went Tom Walker, dashing down the streets, his white cap bobbing upon the down, this morning gown fluttering in the wind, and his steed striking fire out of the pavement in every bound. When the clerks turned to look for the black man, he disappeared. Tom Walker never returned to foreclose the mortgage. A countryman who lived on the border of the swamp reported that in the height of the thunder gust he had heard a great clattering of hoofs and howling along the rod, and running in the window caught sight of a figure such as I have described, on a horse that galloped like mad across the fields, over the hills, and down into the black hemlock swamp towards the old Indian fort, and that shortly after that thunderbolt falling in the direction seemed to set the whole forest in a blaze. The good people of Boston shook their heads and shrugged their shoulders, but had been so much accustomed to witches and goblins and tricks of the devil and all its kept shapes and forms, first setting in the colony, that they were not so much horror-struck as might have been expected. Trustees were appointed to take charge of Tom's effects. There was nothing, however, to administer upon searching his coffers. All his bonds and mortgages were found reduced to cinders, and a place of gold and silver in his iron chest as filled with chips and shavings. Two skeletons lay in his stable instead of his half-starved horse. And the very next day his great house took fire and burned to the ground. Such was the end of Tom Walker and his ill-gotten wealth. Let all gripping money brokers lay this story to heart. The truth, it is not to be doubted. The very hole under the oak trees, whencing the Dug Kid's money, is to be seen to this day. In the neighboring swamp and the old Indian fort are often haunted in stormy nights by a figure on a horseback in a morning gown and white cap, which doubtless the troubled spirit of the usurer. In fact, the story has resolved itself into the proverb, and is the origin of that popular saying so prevalent throughout New England, "The devil and Tom